Hey, what the hell's going on, you guys? It is Tubo Player Negative AE, and welcome back to another episode of Higurashi When They Cry. Uh, Last episode, we kind of dealt with Satoko being with her uncle, I believe it is. I believe his name is Teppy. Am I correct on that? Um, but I guess he's a drunk. He's terrible. He doesn't know how to treat children. And so there's nothing really that we can do because Satoko doesn't want to admit that she's being bullied for whatever reason. I don't know. I don't know. This episode started out real happy, and of course it got sad. Like we knew it was going to. I mean, the game isn't fooling anybody with that happy intro, nor was it with any of the other happy intros that they did. We're gonna see how this transforms into kind of a horror plot, since this game is mainly a creepy game and not a sad necessarily game. Although there are sad moments, it's an overarching creepy theme. I'm gonna press continue before I keep talking, but it's gonna turn in some way to be scary, and I don't know how they're gonna pull it off. Maybe Satoko goes crazy, or we kill the uncle. That's the only. I don't know. I went home and washed off the day's sweat in the shower. Normally I could reset everything by taking a shower and forgetting all the bad things, but that didn't happen today. Got out of the shower to find fresh underwear placed neatly in the laundry basket. Normally I didn't stop to think about it, but today I felt happy at my mother's consideration. At the same time, however, it made me realize how much Satoko must be suffering. At the very moment I was appreciating this gentle kindness, Satoko might be being bruised by her uncle's cruel words and fists, apparently, because she fell, quotes, downstairs, quotes. I went up to the second floor and shut myself in my bedroom. Then, facing my desk, I folded my arms. The topic of thought, of course, was Satoko. We'd thought that if we could just get a public agency to intervene in the right way, the problem would be solved. But with what Coach said, I didn't think it would be so easy. Satoko was obstinate. I thought it was abstinent. No, abstinent is refraining from saying. Obstinate means unmoving, and she would stubbornly deny the abuse, try to endure it. And that was an act of atonement towards Satoshi, who had protected her before and then ran, I'm pretty sure, away, is what that's supposed to be. As long as she thought that way, the situation wouldn't be so simple. But earlier, before Coach, I made a clear declaration. If I thought that Satoko was in danger, then I would do what I had to. In the end, that meant that I was just going to wait and see too. Nevertheless, I thought I'd draw on a clearer line than Coach or my friends had. If the time came, I would report it. No, dude. That's when I don't know. I feel like this is the chapter where we join the Demon Society. It's all leading up to it. Given Satoko's personality, she might criticize me if she found out. But I believe it was ultimately the best decision. Again, with the weight Keiichi Maebara. That really be all it took for the problem to end? Say that I reported it to a public agency like the child. Haven't we been over this? Yes. We discussed this. Last year they decided to do just that. Oh, I know. But then the aunt, thinking herself for a laughingstock, increased her tormenting in secret. In the end, things became more underhanded than ever before. This year it was her uncle. I had just seen him for the first time today, but that man seemed much more direct, much more violent than the word underhanded could imply. It wasn't like their aunt. No, not that subtle. He was more direct. Like you knew their aunt. You don't know. He might also assault her with punches and kicks. That could easily be discerned from the bruises and such I saw on Satoko's body. Shit, you're too naive, Keiichi Maebara. Again with that. However heroic it may seem to report what was happening, if it doesn't save her, then it doesn't mean anything. Reporting things to a public agency was only one option, and leaving everything to them would be dangerous. We would need something more to guarantee Satoko's safety. I scratched madly at my head, thinking, and then tilted it back, wanting at least a little bit of calm. The memories of angry arguing with my friends today came to mind. I was embarrassed that I hadn't realized it until Rennes had said something. She was right. My house is big. Compared to all the houses with straw thatched roofs in Yamizawa, it really was big. We did actually have empty rooms. Never thought that we were affluent, but also never that we were poor. Okay? I just didn't admit it because people would think I was arrogant. But maybe my family really is wealthy. We had a few rooms we could lend to Satoko. The guest rooms are only in use when people related to my dad's job come and stay every once in a while. Plus, we cleaned up a few of the rooms my dad uses for storage. They could work for her as well. As for food expenses, that might have been a more serious problem than a kid like me could imagine. Lunch every day would be manageable. All of our friends would just have to bring a little bit more for lunch than they usually did. With everyone pecking at everyone else's food, anyway, it would be manageable. For breakfast and dinner, though, that would have to be up to Mom. I would need to convince her to lend Satoko more than just a room. Of course, I don't even think convincing her of that would be easy. But how much did it cost for one person to eat? If I explained to my parents, I don't know about other people's parents, because I know there's like different levels of strictness in parents. But if I was like, hey, there's a kid and they're getting abused, and it would be great if we could take them away from that, like, I think we would be down. Like, I don't think there would be much of a discussion. It would be like, oh, okay. Especially if I'm friends with that person, and like my parents like know that person because like I hang out with them at school. I don't know. How many tens of thousands of yen per month? Like ramen is a perfectly cheap dinner. I've had ramen for dinner plenty of times. You could just buy a cheap. I don't know. I'm gonna stop talking before I go on a tangent. I only had 10 or 20,000 yen in savings, but it was something. I actually had even more, thanks to New Year's gifts and such. But my parents had taken all that and put it into a fixed time deposit. If I could get access to that, it should add up to a lot of money, but also not smart. If I got that far, Mian and Rena would need to share some of the burden. Of course, that didn't seem like it would work. Rena got mad at me, didn't she? About how I shouldn't just shove responsibility onto others. I'd have to ask for help. Even so, I'd basically be saving her myself. I would follow through on it. Oh, but it wouldn't only be food expenses, okay? Baths and laundry. That's not even that bad. That's like minor shit right there. Mother was awfully methodical and strict about cutting out inefficiencies. Okay, well. And for once, that was troublesome. I might even make reference to the money it would cost for the detergent Satoko would use to... Jesus, Mr. Krabs, please. I couldn't only think about food expenses. I needed more money. Hey, wait, Kichimebara. Since when is this all about money? Exactly. This is about a friend who's being abused. Even if you could afford it, you would need your parents' permission for it. You'd be looking after a young girl for a really long time. I understand that. It is a long time that you're going to be looking after Satoko. But still, it's like, I don't know, man. If someone's getting abused, like, I don't care how much money I have, dude. Like, you just realize that you can't. Even if you ask them seriously, they would tell you to call the police. Even if you manage to gain their empathy, why should the Maybara family have to shoulder all the burden by its own? That's what would happen. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that argument. It was very sad and frustrating, but no matter how much I wanted to help, you could ask.
そんなにも子供って無力なのかよ。
No, you could ask. Why don't you ask your parents? He's just assuming that his parents will say no. Explain the situation. I believe my feelings were stronger than everyone else's. And if they say no, then alright. But you tried. I even thought that they were younger than coaches, and yet. At that point, there were 2 knocks at my door. And Mom poked her head inside.
起きてたの？さっきからご飯ってずっと。
あ、うん。今行く。
Someone financially dependent on his parents, I shouldn't say this, but I just sat around doing nothing, and food suddenly appeared. It felt so natural to me that I'd shamelessly thought of it as a responsibility of the parents who gave birth to me. But when I realized that the natural thing was actually a privilege, I came to realize just how hard it was to grant that privilege to others. Even the boring meal in front of me, no better than it ever was, had more meaning than tonight. There was food on the table. There's food for 3 on the table right now. For Dad, for Mom, and for me. I couldn't imagine how hard it would be to add another place at the table. I mean, you just add a little bit extra ingredients. Maybe I'm oversimplifying it. Maybe there's something I'm not thinking about. I mean, I know it's a long time. It's a long time you're going to be taking care of this kid. But if this kid is, like, miserable and, like, being beaten and, like, I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just too fucking... I guess I'm just not, like, thinking with money. Maybe they're just scraping by. I began to consider an unthinkably bold plan. That's right. I didn't need to get... Why? What? What kind of roundabout? No. No. That's a terrible idea. I got upset when I found out a while ago, but if I remembered right, if you climbed out the window, then shimmied down the first floor roof or gutter, you could get in and out of the house directly from my room. Satoko's physical ability far surpassed my own, so it would be even easier for her. I hadn't thought about it, but her living here secretly was actually... What? I hadn't thought about it, but her living here secretly was actually a necessity. I'd only have to bring Satoko's to my house when the public agency said it would wait and see. In other words, if Satoko's uncle continued to be her guardian. If, in such a situation, word got out that she was here, her uncle would barge in and drag Satoko back with him. Her uncle was her rightful guardian, so my parents would hand her over without an argument, no doubt. But I needed to keep it a secret that she was living here. What the f... If it needs to be a secret, then having my parents help would mean a lot. But gotta deceive your allies first, like they always say. Who says these things? What is this? What is this plot construction? Why is that an unrealistic proposition? I don't know. What's the harm in asking? Like if you just asked your parents and then they said no, and then you're like, all right, well I'm gonna do it anyway. You know, like that. I guess you would get in more trouble, but like you could still do both. When I was around, she would just have to be really quiet in my room on the 2nd floor. The issue was the daytime. If she was hiding from her uncle, then she shouldn't go to school. It might be lonely, but not going would be the better option. I could easily teach Satoko the stuff that she learns in her grade. Actually, during school, I mostly help all the younger kids out rather than study my own stuff. During the day, I would need to go to school, so I wouldn't be at home. My parents respected my privacy now that I was this age, so they wouldn't go snooping around in my room while I was gone. I think. If she holed herself up in my room, that would be okay, right? If my parents did come, thanks to where the second floor was, she could hear their approach. So, what the fuck? And there would be a little bit of time before they got all the way up. I estimated a few seconds. That she would be able to hide herself in the closet. Wait, Keiichi. Something doesn't make sense. She can't go to school, then what will she do for lunch? I'm down already. I could just leave her my own lunch, couldn't I? Just go to school without lunch and get everyone else to split theirs with me? Okay, that's good. No more contradictions or oversights, right? Oh, breakfast and dinner. I could somehow get her to go without breakfast. I can go with... What the fuck? Every night I pretend as though I had a bigger appetite and then ask for a bigger helping. And then I could just somehow give part of that to Satoko. Test. Stood up from my seat with a plate of fish in my
どう
hand.
したのケイ？ご飯は座ってた。
ちょっと気分が変えたくなってさ、自分の部屋で食べてもいいかな。
ボロボロ落として、食事は食卓で食べなさい。
ごめん。
Wait, I only tried to take away one plate of fish, and they ganged up on me? In reality, it was impossible to smuggle food away without my parents knowing about it. But it must have been worth taking the time to think about. Must be some trick, some method to avoid them realizing. Even if I can't think of one today, I might think of one tomorrow. Maybe ask them! My appetite was rapidly fading, so I finished early and went back to my room. I went back there and tried to think about it from Satoko's point of view. For example, let's say my parents were coming up the stairs right now. Gotta hide. I opened the closet. Clatter, clatter. Didn't open quietly. Hey, wait. Didn't it always open real smooth and quiet? Or is it suddenly doing this now? What is this, a faulty house? Had it already gotten old or something? Or is that just not putting enough work into it? Did I just plaster it with wax? The sound itself might have been soft, but it left me uneasy as to whether my parents would detect it happening when they climbed the stairs. But this was an easy problem, something I could do something about it. I just had to fix it up a little bit so it didn't make noise anymore. For now, I'll close myself in the closet as though I successfully hid. Basically, I always left my futon out on the floor. Couldn't think of any real reason why my parents would want to go into my closet. Even so, there might be some reason they would. I might need to construct some sort of camouflage. What is this, like, crooked plan that I'm coming up with right now? Like, mega illegal, super, like, I don't know. But the more she worried about that, the less time she'd actually have to hide, meaning it would be more likely they'd hear the noise. And then suddenly I had to go to the bathroom. Bathroom? The need to use the toilet, so obvious, yet such a fatal flaw. The only bathroom was on the first floor. It would be absolutely impossible for her to use it without my family realizing. I might just set up a portable toilet, like a chamber pot, I guess. What kind of backwards ass way to get Satoko up into your room is this? So she could go into my room, but the stench would be pretty terrible. Anyone sensitive would probably notice the smell without even coming into the room. Bath was okay though. You could just take a bath when my parents were out. But I couldn't do anything about a toilet. When her stomach started to hurt, if my parents were lazing around downstairs, she'd be in trouble. It was then that I noticed that I'd been clawing at my head with both my hands. I sat down in the dark closet with my knees against my chest. I buried my face in them and tore at my hair. The more I thought, the more contradictions popped up. The more I thought, the more things failed. The more I worried, the more I was reminded of how little power I actually had. You know what you have the power to do, though, is actually mention to your parents what's going on. My back started to hurt from staying in a cramped place for so long. But if I was to shelter Satoko, I would need to force her to feel this pain. Live in such a dark, narrow, suffocating place forever. But it would still be better than being abused by her uncle. So I wanted to think. It got hard to breathe, so I gave in and crawled out of the closet. What? The fuck? I looked at the clock and to my surprise it was 3:30 in the morning. It felt like so little time, but it was so unbelievably long. Jesus Christ. When I realized that, I was slammed with a terrible urge to sleep as if the time had only just caught up with me. I didn't have enough strength to fight it and I fell flat on my futon. Dude, I can't just go to sleep like this. If I waste any time, that'll mean I'm taking the same wait and see attitude that Mion and Coach and everyone else did. I need to keep worrying about how to rescue Satoko for a minute or even a second longer than everyone else. Isn't there a better way? Yes. That one phrase I spoke to myself swirled around in a spiral. It suddenly took over my entire mind. For the last moment of consciousness, I thought. There were a lot of blind spots in what I considered tonight, but I absolutely wasn't wrong for having those ideas. Tomorrow I would suggest this bold plan to the others. What the if the others agree to this plan, I'm gonna be so mad. That's a great idea, Keiichi. I'm gonna punch everybody in the face. Everybody's gonna be punched. I will become a character in this game and punch literally everybody in the face. We needed to rescue Satoko once again with everyone helping out. I felt pathetic for letting myself fall asleep. I'm sorry, Satoko. What kind of bullshit is that? Well, it's not even halfway. It's not even the halfway mark. I thought that for sure that's what... The ceiling blurred into view. It was hot. There was a thin layer of moist sweat on me. The voices of the cicadas permeating my room were somehow grating in my head.
今日日曜日じゃないよな。
Remember today was a weekday and quickly brought myself to consciousness. Then, finally, I leapt out of bed. Clock read a little before 10. It was totally late. Wait, your parents don't yell at you? oh, that's when I'm mad. If I don't hear my alarm, when I wander downstairs, my mom will get mad at me. There was nothing I could do there. After reviewing the schedule for the school day for a moment, I suitably rearranged the stuff in my bag. I hurried and got dressed and went downstairs. There's no sign of my parents anywhere. Maybe they went out somewhere together? And left your kid home from school without telling him, hey, you're late for school. Or that it's almost school time. Man, I would be livid. Oh, okay. That makes more sense. Not have that information. Probably. Thinking I got into school, left. Something like that probably happened. Went to the front door, and as expected, it was locked. Looked like I was right. It was further evidence of my speculation being correct. When I realized my parents weren't here, I suddenly felt less like I had to rush to get to school. Yeah. There was one portion of breakfast left in the dining room. Probably mine. The milk they poured on it had gone warm since a while ago. When I realized how hard it would be to sneak food for Satoko yesterday, I had cried. Well, thinking back on it, food wasn't the only issue in that regard. I wasn't in a position where I could bargain for Satoko by myself anyway. It's such a heavy thing to just save a single person. I'd say this on TV and in comics all the time. Those feel-good words about how you'll save your friends for sure and such. Was that why I ran my mouth like that, swearing to save her because I wanted to feel good about it? You could still save your friend though. Like, you haven't done the one thing that, like, sane people would do. That's the last time I'm gonna mention it. I'm just gonna, like, you didn't ask. I'm done. Okay. This wasn't true. Because of the fact that I couldn't save her. Because I didn't want to think like an adult. Like, I couldn't do anything. Watch. Had Satoko gone to school today? Immediately realized that was a meaningless question. Whether or not she did, there wouldn't be a change in the environment she'd been placed in. But I couldn't save her and no one else could either. And we could only pray for a miracle.
俺たちは無力か。
With a vague goal of getting to school in mind, I sluggishly put on my shoes and stumbled out the front door. I had only overslept by 2 or 3 hours. That's like that's a whole class. But the sunlight and air felt completely different from how they usually were in the morning. It's like a class and a half. Well, of course they did. Once 10 o'clock came around, you could barely call it morning anymore. I didn't feel like walking the same old route to school. I needed to ultimately end up there, but it was like, I didn't want to choose the shortest route, the most proactive one to get to school. Put it in a more positive light, maybe I wanted some time to walk by myself and think. I had to go to school, partly to make sure Satoko was safe. But I hadn't come up with any plans yet. Nothing since last night. So the path I took from my house was in the complete opposite direction. If I went this way, I'd pass Rena's house and the dam site. It'd be quite the detour. Detours are always interesting in this world. I calculated how long of a detour it would end up being, then satisfied with the answer, I started to walk. Rena had brought me to the dam site a few times. One section of it had turned into an unlawful, oversized garbage dump, and Rena really liked going fishing for junk in there. Without that, she'd come off as a completely normal girl, too. I can think of a few other qualities she could do without, but whatever. The view quickly opened up wide, and I was hit by a strong wind. There was no shelter here at this big dam site. Maybe it was a good thing I came here, I thought. At the very least, it was more healthy to think about stuff in a place like this instead of my cramped bedroom. I took a deep breath and filled my lungs with the rich, cold air unique to Hinamizawa. Ring ring. I turned around reflexively. It was a bicycle bell. Considering where I was standing, I don't think they were trying to get me out of the way. They had rang the bell because they wanted something from me. Oh. Hi. Hey, excuse me. You're from Hinamizawa, right? I guess he does have to die for the Watadagashi festival, right? I've seen this person around a few times. Right, I remembered. His name was, I think, Tomitaki, a freelance photographer who lived in Tokyo. He would zealously visit Hinamizawa every season to take pictures, or so Mion and the others told me, I think.
フルデ神社ってここからどう行けばいいか教えて。マップを宿に置いてきちゃったみたいでね。困ってたんだよ。
ここから神社ですか？
I knew where everything was in my head, but explaining how to get there was difficult. I was a little irritated at having been bothered for this, but when I realized it meant my detour actually meant something, that feeling faded quickly.
教えてもいいですけど、一緒でよければ連れて行ってあげますけど。
えそれはかたじけないね。
I don't know if that's a good idea.
助かるよ。あ、でもいいのかい君の用事は。
You have something to do. Tomitaki-san finally appeared to realize how strange it was for a student like me to this be here at this time of day. I smoothly told him not to worry about it, then turned my back and started walking towards the Furude shrine. Tomitaki-san hurried to turn his bike around and came after me.
ごめんごめん。気にしないでくれよ。男には組織を離れて一匹狼になりたい時もあるんだからね。
Oh, a cool statement. Yeah, I guess. Sometimes I just want to walk around and do by myself. I mean, that's everybody. What a free-minded freelancer. It's easier for me, too, that he was under that impression. I'm Tomitaki, a freelance photographer. I specialize in wild birds and landscapes. I'm still pretty unknown, though. It seemed absurd to him for him to introduce himself when I was just showing him to the shrine, but he gave me his name, so I needed to give mine back. I'm Mibara. Pleased to meet you, I guess. Mibara-kun. Pleased to meet you. He seemed like a pretty silly man, but that felt kind of good considering I've been suffocating with worry over Satoko all night. Along the way, Tomitaki-san spoke at length to me about how precious the nature in Hinamizawa was and how it was a treasure trove of rare wild birds despite my not having asked. I wasn't interested in what he had to say, but he seemed to be enjoying himself, so I left him to it.
この石段を上がれば神社の境内です。
ありがとう。助かったよ。ああ、ちょっと遅刻しちゃったかな。
Wait for what? As Tomitaki-san mumbled to himself, he left his bicycle nearby and started to climb the stairs quickly. I didn't have a watch, but as far as my internal clock could guess, I was still a little late in the morning. It was still a little late in the morning. School wasn't very far from here. Maybe I could kill a little bit more time until then. Dude, why don't you just not go to school at this point? Just don't go to school. I mean, it's like... I mean, shit happens sometimes. I went up the steps in pursuit of Tomitaki-san. Call in sick. I arrived at the wide open shrine grounds that were too grand looking for this tiny village. Tomitaki-san. Oh, there he is. Looked like he was supposed to be meeting someone here. Then he got lost and ended up being late. He was bowing to a lady who must have been the person he was meeting. That lady, I knew her.
あら、前原くんじゃ、こんにちは。今日は学校はお休みかしら？
あれなんだ、ケイイチ君ついてきたのかい？
別にそんなつもり。ただちょっと時間つぶしがしたかっただけです。
あらあら、重役出勤とは優雅なものね。さすがは有名人。今から大物ぶりを発揮してること。
What was I, a celebrity? Well, she did say my name out of nowhere anyway. I was oddly concerned about what she meant by famous.
あら、私の
高野美代さんだよ。村の診療所に勤めてる。ケイイチ君は健康そうだから、あまり病院のお世話にはならないかな。
せっかくお知り合いになれたんだから、今度病気か何かできたら。
This lady named Takano-san. I kind of didn't remember her. Maybe we'd passed each other on the street a few times, but I was pretty sure this was the first time we'd talked. Well, this is Hinamizawa. Even if I don't know a person's name, it's not unusual for them to know mine. I glanced at Takano-san and saw she had a big bag and
ちょ
camera.
っとして、あ、それで待ち合わせを。
仲間でなんてとんで素人の私に二郎さんが優しくてほどきをねえ。
あ、そんなことないよ。高野さんは飲み込みが早いからね。本当さ。
I couldn't tell which one of them was ahead in the conversation. There was certainly one couple you wouldn't get tired of
い
watching.
よいよあさってが渡長。今年はいい写真が撮れるといい。
Like how we meet these two just so they can die a couple of days
明
later.
日の設営シーンからレンズに収めるつもりだよ。そういう準備風景からもお祭りの活力を捉えたいんだ。
Oh, I just remembered. there was some village festival called Watanagashi or something the day after tomorrow on Sunday.
ひなみ沢の守り神お社様に感謝するため古い布団を積み
あら、ご名答、前原くん。引っ越してきたばかりにしては博識ね。そう。お社様に感謝す。
Takano-san smiled somehow meaningfully, but didn't tell me what part of the festival to thank Oishiro-sama needed to be laughed at.
やれやれ。高野さん。でも、どうだろうね、今年は。
2度あることは3度ある。そしてもう4度あったの。5度目がないと言える方が何の根拠もないと思うけれど。
I knew what they meant by their whispered exchange. The day of the Watanagashi, a freak death always occurs, which people call Oyashiro-sama's curse. A disappearance occurs people call Demoned Away. Got it. These strange events had happened 4 years running, and Watanagashi rapidly approaching the day after tomorrow marked the 5th.
村の旧敵にたたりをなす今年もあるとして、果たしてその矛を受けるのは誰にな。あ、僕はここに来るたびにちゃんとお参りしてお賽銭。僕じゃないことは確かだよ。
あらそう。近年のお社様は異邦人引っ越してきたばかりとはいえ、前原くんはちゃんとひなみ沢に。二郎さんは毎年さーて
ひどいな。
Tomitaki-san was the only one with a pained grin, but we were all smiling, me included. Oyashiro-sama, the one who used a curse to kill people involved with the dam construction project one after the next. He killed the dam construction construction manager. He killed Satoko's parents for supporting it. And next year he even killed her aunt. If the Demon Away was part of that curse, then you could add Satoshi to the list of victims. As I thought about it, I realized that in the serial freak death incidents, the overwhelming majority had the last name Hyojo. Half the deaths and disappearances had come from the Hyojo family. The Hyojo family lived here in Hinamizawa. Does that mean Oyashiro-sama punished and cursed them particularly harshly because, despite that, they had been in favor of the dam?
里子のおじが帰ってきたって話は聞いてますか？
Takano-san, who had been enjoying a few words with Tomitaki-san, was caught unawares by my sudden inquiry.
あ、ごめんなさい。今
いえ、里子の両だったら順番的には次は去年のたたりでおばが無残な死に方をし、それに恐れをなして町に逃げていたやつですよ。
Yeah, I mean it could go Uncle Death, Satoko Demoned Away.
お社様は確か村を捨てて逃げ出そうとするのは許さなかったですよね。
I hadn't intended to be quite this persistent. But those words, they just flowed out of my mouth without me thinking about it. Right. Oyashiro-sama's curse. I didn't believe in something so unrealistic, of course, but the fact that it was every year, unfortunate events and incidents happened to the enemies of the village. Like Takano-san said just now, it happened 4 times. No one could say there wouldn't be a 5th.
面白い説ね。確かに過去の犠牲者を見れば、その延長として考えれば、今年はおじが死ぬか消え。
もう高野、起こるかもしれない不幸を笑うのは良くないよ。
ごめんなさいね。でもお社様のたたりは私のライフワークだし。
Takano-san gave off a mysterious, somehow intellectual impression, and her life's work was mysterious in its own right. She probably really liked inexplicable supernatural phenomena or something.
高野さんはお社様のたたりに詳しそうですね。どうでしょう、北条の帰ってきたおじがたたりに会う可能性は。
Give me your honest thoughts. Given that he's a Hyojo and that he's returned, the chances that the uncle will follow the
あ、
case.
そのおじさんを殺したくて仕方がない。
そんなんじゃないです。
I do know that if he dies, then Satoko's being demoned, right?
神様の気まぐれ次第だからね。
前原くん、サンタクロースの正体は知ってる？
Huh? Got a strange question all of a sudden. I couldn't immediately answer.
なーに？パパよ。みんなの家のパパ。
なんだ、そういう意味ですか。そりゃそうですよ。どんなものの正体だって最初だってここは人間しかいない。全ての現象は人間で解明できるはずです。
Felt like I put that somewhat strangely, but Takano-san was not as dissatisfied with that reply as I might have guessed.
あら、そのね、人間の世で起こる現象は。では前原くん、もう一度尋ねるわよ。今度はサンタクロースじゃなくて、お社様。お社様のたたりの正体は何かわかるかしら？
Takano-san took a step towards me and gazed into my eyes as she asked. Santa Claus is really the parent of every family's children? That was a weird sentence. If lionizing that legend was a corporate tactic to try and profit during Christmas sales, then what was Oyashiro-sama really?
あら、ここは人間しか、すべての現象は人間。
圭一君、ここだけの話だよ。高野さんはね、お社様のたたりをめぐるひなみ沢の村人が何かの儀式に基づいて行っている人為的殺人事件でないかと見ているんだよ。
誤解しないでね。私はそれに至る教義や思想、文化を民族学的見地から別に犯人が誰かなんてことにはそこだけ勘違いしないでちょうだいね。
I could tell at least that she was saying some crazy stuff. You know what this game kind of reminds me of? You guys ever play the card game Mafia? Or like, you guys ever play Epic Mafia on the internet? It's basically like, I mean, for those of you that don't know, I'm pretty sure it's like a common game, but like, it's basically like, there's mafia that kill people, and then there's like people that can like investigate people and like figure out what's going on. This feels like Mafia in the fact that like it's like, we're gonna kill you night 1. Alright, you were just the damn construction manager. Alright, now night 2, we're gonna kill you. Like blip blip. And then there's like, I don't know, it reminds me of Mafia. It reminds me of Game of Mafia, and like she's the detective, right? She's like investigating shit, and then the Mafia's like, oh, now we know that she's a detective. Blip. I don't know. It just gave me that vibe just now. I was like, oh man.
村が鬼ヶ淵村と呼ばれていた古代にまで鬼と血を交わらせたと信じる犯人犯気の仙人たちが。
Takano-san, having entered her home field, leaned forward and began to speak of ridiculous matters. Tomitaki-san realized she was overawing me and interrupted for me.
高野さん、その話をいきなり圭一君にほら、彼も面食らってるよ。
あら、そう？続きに興味があったら、前原くんくらいの年頃の男の子が
ありがとう。気が向いたらそのうちに。
For now, I softly and safely gave my refusal. Takano-san seemed a little unhappy about that Tomitaki-san had rained on her parade, but she stopped talking about it then. Even so, it was still a very interesting story. That Oyashiro-sama's curse, which we thought of as strange freak deaths, were really homicides. What else would they be?
まあその常識的に考えればそうですよね。
Thinking that they aren't homicides would be believing in the curse. So of course they're homicides.
人が死ぬはずない。誰かがたたりになぞらえて殺してるに。
そうね。
This should be like common information.
それが誰なのかは研究しな。
高野さんは知ってそう。証拠はないまでも確信を持っているくらい。
あら、どうしてそう思うのかしら。
I just kind of felt it vaguely. It didn't seem like her extreme passion for this research could be explained by these things being taboo or being safe and easy. This person who loved walking through the profound, forbidden abyss of taking risks and taboos
それくらいにしなよ、圭一君。せっかく助けてあげたのに、またお社様のたたりの。涼しいうちに散策に行きたかったのにな。
Tomitaki-san seemed a little disappointed not to be able to go on the date that he'd planned since I brought up a weird topic. But right now there was something I wanted to ask, just for a little bit. This man needs to get to school, or he's just not going to go to school. That was about whether Satoko's uncle would be chosen for the curse this year. If he was, then another miracle would happen just like last year. A terrible incident would happen again, but it would release Satoko from her unfortunate circumstances once more. But then Satoko would be demoned away, you stupid.
もちろん、おそらくあの辺りの人たちが関わってる鬼ヶ淵村の歴史を研究していれば自然と至る
それは誰です？
I'd do if I knew. I asked that question. I asked that question to the other me deep inside, but got no
ね、
reply.
それを知ってどうするつもり？
別に。
知ったらあなたにも危険が降り5年目のたたりは
Kano-san, toying with taboo, gave a devilish satisfied smile, and as though nothing in the world would be more amusing. She was probably trying to tease me, but I didn't feel like going along with her little game one bit.
偉そうな能書きでもったいぶってますが、高野さんだってよくは分かってないみたいじゃないですか。
Felt a tinge of irritation at Kano-san's roundabout way of speaking, but those emotions escaped my mouth like a water flowing through a strainer. Even I was surprised at how directly I had spoken out about what I had felt. Of course, I wasn't the only one being taken aback.
言ってくれる坊やなのに挑発までできるの？意外に野生的嫌いじゃないわよ。そういうの。
The Kano-san's tongue poked out of her mouth, and I was convinced that it was a long, thin, and the split in the middle like a snake's.
ならいいわ。教えてあげてもよ。でも私が何を教えても口外しない。私が言ったなんて絶対言わない。
I gulped firmly and nodded. Tomitaki-san made an exaggerated expression of distress and gave a dry, vague smile and lit a
教えて
cigarette.
ください。たたりを下しているのは、たたる相手を選んでいるのは誰なんです？
After I said that, I realized why I wanted to know. Alright, that's a perfect halfway point. A little irritated with Takano-san is a good. That's a good description of how I feel about it too. She's just kind of like, ooh, I know all this stuff. It's like, what do you think? She's like a therapist that like I don't like. I don't know. But that's gonna be the end of this. Many of my classmates were playing freely in the schoolyard. That is not a good sign. Means it's lunchtime or recess, something. But I'm gonna go ahead and end the episode here. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this episode, hit that like button. It really means a lot that you guys would spend a like on one of my videos. It does. It means a lot. Thank you. And then subscribe if you haven't done so already. I mean, we're going to finish the game, so if you're interested in watching me finish the game, I know it's a commitment, but yeah. As for what I think's going on, I don't know. I think that if it is the case, I think that Tomitaki and Takano-san die again. If they don't die again, it would change some things. I don't know what things it would change. Off the top of my head. I guess because I think that this is a... I think that Tomitaki-san and Takano-san dying is set in stone. I think it's set in stone. I'm still coming up with a theory as we go, but it still makes sense to me that something happens at the very last episode. Like, either it's like, oh, you're gonna have your memory wiped every single time that you do this, you know? Or every single time that this happens, a couple days after, you will lose all your memory, and then everything will start over. Or you're actually Satoshi, but you're Keiichi Maepara. Does that make sense? Like, you're not Satoshi right now, but you were Satoshi at one point. And, like, or, like, maybe you killed Satoshi, or maybe... I don't know. I do think that I kill all my friends. I thought that since the first one, and I'm gonna keep with that. Because when it comes down to it, I'm just kind of like talking now, so like if you want to turn off the video, you can. But when it comes down to it, if in the fact that I discover that there's demons, right? If in some weird chapter I'd finally find out, boom, there's demons, and I'm at odds with them, the only way to deal with the demons is to kill them, I would think, or seal them away somehow. And given that I'm just a normal schoolboy without any sealing powers, I imagine that I would have to kill them. Now this is assuming there's a lot of assumptions here, because I'm assuming that what I'm thinking is right, maybe, because my idea right now is that the first episode was the end, and that the last episode is going to be the beginning, and it's going to somehow, the last episode is going to somehow tie everything together in that way, right? It's going to be like, oh, this is why nothing makes sense in all the chapters, because they're all different chapters because you went to different dimensions or something stupid, something stupid like that, where it's just like, oh, you went to all these dimensions, but then you look at it from, I'm okay. I'm trying to gather my thoughts as I'm speaking. So, if it was just the case that we were playing through one storyline, and we had one thing, and all this was happening within one Watanagashi cycle, and I found out that Mion was kidnapping people, and she has Shion in the basement, and I found out that Satoko has an abusive dad, and that Rena, like, almost, or she did pretty much kill me, or her shadow, or whatever that thing was that killed me in the first one, but we never got a glimpse of because we were on the phone. If it was just that case, my first idea, my main idea would be that this is a social disorder. All their brains are fucked up. No one is in the right mind, and everybody's crazy in this town. It's a small town, could happen. Everybody kind of gets the same idea. There's no like outside contact. I can see people going absolutely mad, and why it may seem weird to me as an outsider that they want to kill everybody, but that's just how they functioned. So that would, then it would be like, oh, they're all crazy. I'm gonna kill them because they're trying to kill me, and that's the only thing I can do in self-defense. And then I go to jail or some shit like that. That would be great. But it's not. This game is separated into chapters that don't make any sense when connected with each other, as far as I know. So with the information that I've been given, they don't make any sense connected with each other, so there's no point connecting these stories together. So then, now I'm trying to think of why that's the case, right? Like, why present me with multiple stories, with multiple endings, all in the same time period, nonetheless, with different things happening, right? It's not like oh, this is this year, and then this is like 2 years in the future, or this is 3 years in the future. Everything is happening within the same time period. So that means there's different realities going on, and I have no idea why. And the only way that I can explain that is that in the last episode, there's got to be something that explains why everything is different. It's got to be, or somewhere towards the end. It doesn't have to necessarily be the last episode, because the last episode could like wrap up everything. But somewhere towards the end of the series, there's got to be something that's like, oh, the demons can create multiple realities. When I went into the closet, I went through a portal, and that's when everything went to shit. That's when everything starts going bad. That closet was a portal to the demon world, and I just didn't realize it because it's so similar, or something like that. Or time doesn't pass in the demon world, so when I pass out from dying or from death, because the second one's still subjective, I'm labeling it as subjective. If you pass out from death, then you get put into this other demon world. You get put into this other thing. I don't know. This is all just speculation. Again, not enough information to go off of. It's kind of weird because in a lot of games, a lot of visual novels, they give you a bunch of information, and then your goal is to, from all the information that you're given, try and guess where the game's pushing you, and the game surprises you with a twist ending or something like that, because they've given you all this information, it's clearly leading a certain way, and then twist into a different direction. This game is way different in the fact that it just doesn't give you information. It gives you a lot of vague answers and a lot of he said, she said things, and a lot of like, oh, there's scary shit happening in the town. But they've really not given you a lot of information to work with to try and find any ending, much less the ending that they're trying to go. So it's a little weird to kind of predict what's happening when a lot of what I have to do that is make assumptions on what I've seen. And that's kind of what I'm doing. So I think that the last episode, in conclusion, I think that the last episode probably has something that ties all these universes together. If I had to take a crack at what the demons are, it's probably the mental disorder. I was of the opinion on the first chapter that there were actual demons, like horned flying demons. But that was before I got to know this slice of life deal. It's not giving me hints of supernatural activity. It's giving me hints of psychotic people. So that's what I think is going on. And I think that there are demons, but not in the way that there's actual demons, but that there are crazy people who are like, we're in a small town, we're not going to contact the outside world, and we are protected by this demon spirit, and we are loyal. Like religion, kind of, back in the old, I don't know, I just upset a lot of people. I didn't, back in the day, the church was terrible. The church murdered a lot of people back in the day, and it was like blind faith, you know? It's not like that today. Well, I mean, it is like that in some places. But I think that's exactly what's going on. Blind faith, just murder for Oyashiro-sama. Don't tell anybody because it was Oyashiro-sama. It wasn't me committing the murder. It was Oyashiro-sama through me, you know, like something like that. I don't know. I gotta stop talking before this is an hour. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed, simply like, subscribe. I already said all that shit. I'll see you guys in the next episode, whenever that may be. And peace out, you guys.